I'm having one of them redone because it wasn't apples to apples with the same.
Good morning. Today is June 19th, 2024. The time is now 9:02 a.m. I'm Kevin Day, Chair of the Custer County Board of Commissioners, and I will call this meeting to order. If you do have your cell phones, I'd appreciate it if you would silence them at this time. And if you would join us for the pledge and for the invocation, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Join us for the invocation as well. Our Heavenly Father, we come before you this morning, and we thank you for this day that you've given us in the cooler weather. We thank you as well that we're able to come together here in this place to take care of the business of the county. And Father, we ask that you would be with us, that you would guide us and direct us. Lord, we just seek your wisdom and your direction. And we just ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Kelly, could we get a roll call, please?
Commissioner Day,
Present.
Commissioner Kanda.
Here.
Commissioner Epp,
Present.
County Attorney Dan Slater.
Here.
And Clerk to the Board Kelly Camper present.
Okay. Audience introductions. I guess we'll start with you, Jim.
Jim Shapland.
Oh, Alexis Enslow.
Alexis who?
Enslow.
Okay.
In the day, Flatware. Bruce Clark.
All right. Any amendments to the agenda?
None from me.
None for me.
All right. And I would add that if anybody goes to speak later, if they could identify yourself for the record, and we do have a couple of people online as well. We have the minutes from June 12th.
Move we accept the minutes from June 12th. That's written.
Second. Any discussion on those minutes?
No, sir. None for me.
All right. Those in favor of approving the minutes from June 12th signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. That motion carries. Commissioner items, Commissioner Kanda.
Two quick ones. The airport signed the authority to proceed painting it. The PMS, that's going to be done. Maybe not with the rain now, but as soon as they can. And that'll allow us to catch up payments on it, and we'll turn that in with this Jan.
Okay.
As soon as we get it that way, we're cleared. And the Upper Arc, I attended that meeting. It's a great meeting. They went into executive session to finalize their selection of a new director. And so I didn't get to hear the results yet, so as soon as I get them, I'll pass it along. And they are going to, I'm going to sponsor a presentation by them soon to come up on all the things that are going on in the water world, so to speak. And part of that is the raising the level of Lake Deweese by 4 feet, details on what that means and what the process is and who's affected and who's not.
Is that an Upper Arc project?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it, it hasn't been, they've just done the engineering and the study. It's not a position yet that they've taken to spend any money doing anything with that. And then the other things are everybody's interested in there. They're going around closing down ponds that weren't adjudicated. And a lot of people have applied for exemptions based on a fire protection thing and those kind of things. There's several of those that are there. And some of them you can't shut down. The water is so high, the table's got artesian wells popping up. It's hard to shut down a pond that won't shut itself down.
Right.
You can't fill it. So they'll discuss all that. Be a good presentation, and it affects the blue line, because a lot of these, the upper arc is augmenting water for Round Mountain, which is beyond, it's south of the blue line currently, which means the blue line gets to, bubble around things so people can see what that means, and understand what the blue line
The
means.
augmentation line,
Yes.
right?
Okay, that's all I have for now.
Commissioner,
I don't think I have anything this meeting.
Other than 10,000 resolutions today.
Well, yes, sir. We can talk about those later.
all right. I brought a few items. I think you grabbed the quote, the sheet for that roofing company based out of Howard, I believe. I picked that up from Florence Fire last night when I was at their meeting. They voted last night to approve moving forward with that particular company. Their bid was pretty reasonable.
Roughly,
I think it's the same company I had brought
like
to,
$70,000 or whatever.
it's a coating that they put on over,
Yeah,
they insulate it and then put that on top. It's a fabric coating. Caroche's there in Florence have used them and they highly recommend
that's
them.
better than just jamming tar around.
So I thought I had them give me that so I could bring it up, because I knew we were in the middle of those quotes, and so I wanted to see if you guys had reached out to them yet or not. And then I have some information here. I had stopped by Enterprise, the fleet management table at CCI, and brought some information back from them that I will let you guys take a look at in regards to setting up a program possibly on rotating our vehicles out on a regular basis. So, and then I have been in contact with Jack Custer from MVP Playgrounds. That unit that they had, they do have one of those still in stock. And so he has let me know that and resent the bid on that.
Did it increase?
$400. Yeah. But that, part of that may be freight on that.
Cost of fuel.
And so, but he resent the quote. I will check with him and see why it is $400 different than the last one. And I think I've already stated that I did put in a mini grant request for that to UCOG as well, so that would help ease it on our end if we got that grant. That's all I have. Dan, do you have anything for us?
I do.
Thank you, sir. And I guess I'll look at Kelly if she has anything today.
I have one thing, actually, the clerk thing. So do you want me to bring it up now, or do you want me to just do it during the comment? So I had kind of given you guys a heads up in that workshop the other night about my vendor that prints and mails out my ballots, that I'm in search of another vendor. And I think I have found one, and I was nervous about how much more it was gonna be, but it looks like it's only gonna be about 3,000 more than what I'm paying currently. And so I don't even think that adjustment in my budget will be necessary.
Okay.
I think I can work that.
That's 3,000 for the annual or for per election cycle?
For elections.
For now.
Yeah, but it'll only be for the November election, so just one for this year. So that's why,
They'll be able to do it in time.
yes, it's gonna be fast, but they've sent me the contract and stuff, and I'm gonna put that on the July 3rd agenda. And then we can move forward.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have no unfinished business. Moving to new business, the first item that we have on our agenda would be the Human Services Differential Response. And Alexis, you are here
I am.
with a big smile and a giggle on today,
I
right?
am.
All
You have
right,
no idea how much fun I had writing this out
all right.
at 8:30 this morning.
Oh, no. Do we have a copy or anything, or you're
Nope.
just gonna?
So it's just the email that I sent you guys. So I'm here for a couple of reasons. One, to formally ask you guys to please come to the July 17th community forum meeting that is mentioned in that email. And I'll get to the reason as to why it's so important that you guys are there. So let me tell you a little bit about this. At the community forum meeting, I'll have this great PowerPoint with, I'm sure, My Little Ponies in the background, all good stuff. But this is what it is. Currently, there is one way to respond in Custer County to any report of child abuse or neglect. It's through a high-risk assessment. The high-risk assessment requires us to do a couple of things. So first and foremost, we assess for safety, child safety. Are kiddos safe? There's a safety and a risk assessment that we have to do with every case. And that helps guide us the way the state wants us to be addressing it. The high-risk assessment is an evidence-based evaluation, investigation about families, their safety, and with that comes a formal determination. So it has to have a finding. So is our person responsible for abuse or neglect responsible? Did they cause the abuse? Did they cause the neglect? A lot of time that involves court involvement, and Mr. Slater is our attorney for that. We have a couple of cases now, and they get very in depth. They're very expensive. It's not the best approach. We found a different approach that works so much better, and it's called the differential response. It's really taken over across the whole nation. Up in Alaska, I did it. The good thing about a differential response is Alexandria and I have both come from counties that do differential response. So we're very familiar with it. We're familiar with the success it has, the family-focused, very strength-based approach that it has. In a differential response, the first thing we do is assess for safety. Aside from that, it's really a family approach as opposed to the 1970s approach where here we're coming in and it's not too pretty. So with this, it's community-based, it's family-based, it's strength-based, it's how can we help this family, not necessarily determine if abuse or neglect happened, because sometimes that prevents us from growing, that prevents us from getting jobs, it prevents us, it puts a stigma. And we really don't want to do that. We really want to help families. That's what we're here for. So a differential response allows us to talk to families that have a low or moderate risk of abuse or neglect. The high-risk assessment is still reserved for the severe ones like severe physical abuse, sex abuse, institutional abuse, things like that. With the differential response, there's no formal finding. One of our greatest tools that we can use is family engagement meetings. Those really bring in the community, the family, whoever supports the family. So a teacher that was impactful when they were in 3rd grade, things like that. We bring those people in to really just create a safety net around the family to help them. It's more of a learning opportunity, a teachable moment, rather than a, you've abused somebody, you've neglected somebody. It's a much better approach that has a much better response. Part of those things that we see changes with is recidivism goes way down. When we do the front end loaded services, we don't see families come back as much, which is great. It's cost effective for the families, cost effective for the community, cost effective for everybody. But more important, it teaches. And the parents really have a better response to it in the fact that we're not there to hurt anybody. We're not there to, go after anybody. We're there to help. maybe it's just a poor parenting decision, because parenting doesn't come with a manual. I don't know if you guys knew that, but it does not.
No.
It gives us better education as caseworkers. It gives the family better education. It helps them connect to different services. There's a lot more follow through from families. So in the next meeting on the 17th, this is going to go more in depth to what it really does. But there's 3 steps. So Custer County DHS has done a lot to get us to this point. It's a process, and not all of the counties in Colorado do it. I want Custer County to do it. Alexandria wants Custer County to do it. The state wants us to do it, and the feds want us to do it. There's 3 steps that we have left to do. 1, I have to have that community forum. In that email, there were a lot of people that were invited. Anybody can come. You guys can come. Anybody. And that's so we can answer questions about how much better it is for families and our community. Part of the partners that we want in that are law enforcement. Law enforcement does a lot of co-investigations with us. Medical providers, school staff. We'll have differential response experts from the state, and we'll also have state representatives there. Hopefully you guys will be there. So part of that, after we do that, the state will have to practice or watch our practice, like the red team process, group supervision, family engagement meetings, things like that. After that's complete, the next step is I have to do a formal application to the state that says what our intent is, why it's important for our community, and I'm going to add what the community asks of us in the 17th meeting. After those 2 things are done, I send all of that to the state, and they formally request that Custer County becomes a differential response. And after that, it's literally flipping a switch. They just flip a switch in trails that allows us to do it, and we go. Alexandria and I have already completed all of the training. Part of that, we already had some of that, but the newest information we've already done. We've really completed our part, and now it's time to get the community involved, answer any of their questions, do a formal application, and then flip the switch.
What time, what day? I know the day 17th.
July 17th, it's at 1 o'clock at Lane Hall.
Just a quick question, because it popped in when you were going through that.
Yeah, I expected that.
So you mentioned the fact that severe abuse still goes to the investigative and doesn't fall under this.
Yes.
But then you said that differs between the moderate would be the next step. What is the definition of the difference between moderate and severe abuse when you walk into a house? Does that mean the kid's only got 1 black eye instead of 2 black eyes and bruises all over, or what's the difference there?
So that makes sense that you're asking, and everybody that I've talked to, not about differential response, but law enforcement, what constitutes the different levels of abuse that we have? There's low, there's moderate, and there's severe. Unfortunately, I don't have a cookie cutter answer for you, but what I do have is like a low level one would be, got out of the house and went gallivanting across the country, and law enforcement found him in the park. I've had some of those. That's kind of low. That's just kid went out the door. That happens. Moderate, drug exposed infants. That might be moderate. There's a little bit involved with the drug exposure too, but that could be moderate. We have to show that there's a direct impact on the kiddo. So if we see a kiddo that's withdrawing, that's a direct impact. Severe, broken babies, broken bones in babies. broken bones in kids. Depending on where bruising is, bruising can be that. You don't want to see bruising in torsos. It's not a good place for bruising. Knees, shins, that's different, but there's no really any one thing that would say this is severe, unless you have like a fatality, that's very different. But it's a bunch of different things that we take into account. Condition of the home, age of the child is a huge one. 2 years old and younger, they can't talk, they can't go report, they can't self-protect, they can't run away. That's where we see more abuse and neglect in 2-year-olds. So age of child. The age of the parent also runs into it, because the example I always use is insurance companies for men, don't take offense to this, please, usually don't have lower rates until they're over the age of 25, right? It's because we're still developing. So we see a higher risk with adults that are under the age of 25 be perpetrators of abuse or neglect. Also, if there's a history, take that into consideration too. So I really wish I had A, B, and C answer for you, but.
Well, and I realize there's not one of those,
Yeah.
but that just sparked that question when you said that, because, and I, of course, naturally jumped to the physical abuse, and your definition of a low, to me, that's not abuse or neglect. That just means you turned your back for a second and the kid got out the door.
I agree. I absolutely agree with you. It actually just happened to me a couple of months ago with my grandson.
So.
Went right across the street to the park. But sex abuse will always be high, always. There's no getting around it. It will always be high. Institutions, that will always be high. And I realize you guys don't necessarily think of institutions like we do. Maybe you guys are thinking of Southern Peaks down in Fremont. But an institution is also a foster home. That would be considered an institutional abuse investigation. So some things you wouldn't think are high, but they are.
Do you involve churches?
Yes.
That's when you're mentioning everybody that should come to that meeting, I think that would be one of the prime ones that you want.
I agree with you for a couple of reasons. Churches in communities have a foundational role in families. A lot of people in the church don't realize that they're mandated reporters. And we've run into that. Part of this community forum is not only an educational piece about what we can do, but how the partners in the community can help us get to that. So yes, I do believe that churches should be a part of that. If you have emails, send them my way and I will send out that email that I sent to you guys. I sent it to the Custer County Kids Council because that's the emails I have.
But in furthermore, like in these family engagement meetings where she's talking about where we invite members of the family's circle, that may be a youth group leader, that may be a pastor that works with the family. Those are all definitely included. The department works with the family, parents, children to identify, all right, who's important in your life? Who are supports in your life? Who should be at this meeting and can provide us input and provide you help as we go through these things so that we can avoid moving the child from the home in the first place.
Really, those FEMs that Mr. Slater referenced really are an incredible tool that allows the family to decide how to address the issue, rather than a professional sitting there saying, well, you need this, parenting classes or that. It allows the family and their supports to really determine what's best for the family.
Have you been limited in what you can do differentially wise?
Yes.
By the state?
I wouldn't necessarily, I wouldn't necessarily say the state.
Okay.
What I would say is the state really encourages us to look at families as individuals, not individual people within the family, but a cookie cutter approach isn't going to work for everybody. And unfortunately, with the high risk assessment, we're really limited with what we can do.
Yeah, it raised a question in my mind too. You mentioned the state wants us to do it. Does it mandate we do it?
No, they don't mandate. I will tell you, the federal government will mandate it at some point.
Maybe so.
Yeah.
And then you said, once you do that, then we have this meeting, then all of a sudden there's a switch turned on at the state or something. You said something to that effect.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
So in our state reporting system, it's called Trails. It's how we document everything that we do. There are certain parts of it that we can't access because we're not a differential response county. So right now, when it's assigned, it pops up on the top and it has the different tabs that we can click on. When it's a differential response county, it opens up another tab that's called FAR, and it's called a Family Assessment Response. It's literally the switch that turns from gray to we can use it, that allows us to do that.
And there's no cost.
There is no
Could
cost.
come as a result.
In fact, I will save the county more money than you could ever imagine.
Well, I get that. I just want to make sure that we're not signing up to something that says we're going to have to update it with a.
No, it's not what we pay for,
Okay.
it's the state software that
Alright.
everyone uses.
There won't be any cost.
Cool.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate you being here today. Sorry we didn't fit your schedule the last time around. So.
Well, honestly, I got in, normally I'm online. I clicked on right as you guys were discussing this, so I heard just a snippet of it.
So you knew you were on for today?
I knew. Yeah, I was put on notice.
All righty. Well, I was just curious because she had to write it up last night. So. Well, thanks a lot.
You're welcome. I hope to see you guys on the 17th.
It's on my schedule.
It's so important. I need to see the state, see you guys there.
Okay.
We have a meeting that day, right?
In the morning,
Yeah.
and we have one in the afternoon.
Yeah. So, my point is, we gotta get out by 1.
I'm looking at you, Bill.
I'm looking at you guys.
I know where the fire alarm is. Just saying.
We got our timer back here.
Okay.
Got the blue one today.
But yeah, you're right, we do need to be out by noon.
All right. So we have a bid opening for Lot 1A, Block 1 in Cuerno Verde Pines, filing number 6. And I'm going to say that you have that.
I've only received one. They were supposed to go to Mike.
I have not heard from him that he had received any.
I asked him that the other day, and I don't know.
Would it be beneficial for me to holler at him real quick to make sure?
Yeah. Van can open it in a minute. It's an honor that the attorney said that.
Yeah.
It's a perk that you have.
That's why I wear the shorts.
Oh, no.
Like that.
Oh, yeah, no.
My phone did not hook up to the network down here this morning. Can you call him? I'll have to reboot mine.
This fence is killing me. Not wanting to grab it. There it goes. Mike, we got a quick question. Did you receive any bids on that lot 1A? Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, thanks, all I need. None.
All right. I will open. Oh, there's a check. My name is Cody Mars. This fellow's is. I represent Kurt Morris and the Moores Land and Cattle LLC encloses a check for $4,301. The sealed bid for parcel ID 1.63 acres. And so 4301. 4,300.
Pretty good for that little sliver of ground. I move we accept the bid.
I'll second.
Okay, so I have a motion on the floor to accept the bid of $4,301. You said it was submitted by Cody Mars, but for,
The LLC.
Well, yeah, KERTMORRS,
In AR,
MORRS.
that's a typo.
Well, his name is Cody Mar.
It's actually more.
It is in ARR.
Okay, I mean, you guys can tell me that's an O, but.
what's on the
or that's an
paper
A,
is,
but it sure, in several places, looks like an O.
Does look like a no.
I mean, it's Cody
But it
looks
is
like an
supposed to
A.
be, yes,
It's
but
an
it is.
ARRS.
You guys would know better than me.
okay, so,
So is it, and
So the
it
bid,
was for him.
so the payment is from Cody, but the bid is on behalf of Kurt
And Martin.
and Mars Land and Cattle LLC.
okay,
So we would be transferring the property to
The LLC. Kurt.
either the individual or the individual and the LLC.
okay.
Because the outside of the bid said it's just the individual.
You can clarify that. That was fine. Right.
That's the how you want it.
Okay, so we have a bid for, motion on the floor to accept the bid for $4,301 from, I'm gonna say Kurt Mars Cattle LLC as presented here today. Any further discussion on that?
No, sir.
Nope.
Public comment?
So the county is selling this property, and where is it located?
Colonel Verde said.
Colonel Verde.
If you want to approach, I got the map here.
It'd be south of Osage Trail, and just where County Road 320, which is Elkhorn, turns back to the north there, and Osage comes off. It'd be on the southwest part of that intersection for the
An
most
acre
part.
and 6/10. And it adjoins their property.
Anything else? Not seeing anything online. Okay, so I have a motion on the floor to accept the bid for $4,301 from the Kurt Mars Cattle LLC, Lot 1A, Block 1, Corner Verde Pines, filing number 6. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. That motion carries. Next item on our agenda would be the subdivision moratorium that is expiring next month.
Keep this online, or you're supposed to be here today?
Yes, I do not,
May not have known it was down.
I got a note from Dorothy this morning that said she and Keith are
Good. You call him up.
he is not
He
online.
won't have cell phone coverage if he's on the way.
That'll be good news if I don't hear from him.
In honesty, I believe she told him it would probably be about 10 o'clock when we got to this portion of the agenda.
Well, then let's move it to the bottom.
So you want to amend the agenda?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
We can do that.
Everybody good with moving that
Give him a chance to show up.
underneath the resolutions?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that will take us to resolution 24-07 regarding vacation and sick leave accrual. We'll stay on that. Would you like to address us on that, sir?
A whole lot more than what we said before. The way the handbook is written now, the rollover will carry over sick and vacation because those had the new PTO system.
Speak up, Bob, because you're being recorded.
To take place July 16th. There's a lot of layers of potential problems with staying with that deadline, and in order to work through the layers of all the problems and misunderstanding and miscommunication and a bunch of other things, in the employees' best interest as well as the county's, if we stayed that projected good date at the beginning of September, for that to be worked through by myself, with some help from Vernon and Jen and Lisa, and meeting with employees and department heads, gather all the relevant stuff. So that's the reason for needing to do that.
Okay, and we have a resolution before us to that effect. Thank you for speaking to that again, so everybody's aware of what we're talking about. 24-07, the resolution of Custer County, Colorado, amending the employee handbook for the purpose of extending the transition to a paid time off policy. Whereas Custer County adopted a comprehensive set of personnel policies in July 2023 entitled the Employee Handbook, and whereas the current employee handbook mandates that county employees had 1 year to utilize any accrued vacation leave and/or sick leave under the previous policies, and whereas the Board of County Commissioners has been advised by the Human Resources Department that a full transition to the paid time off policy described in the 2023 personnel policies is not yet ready to be implemented. And whereas the BOCC desires to delay the deadline for county employees to utilize any prior accrued vacation leave and sick leave until September 30th, 2024. Now therefore, let it be resolved by the Board of County Commissioners for Custer County, Colorado, that 1, the employee handbook for Custer County is hereby amended as follows. The subheading entitled Vacation Sick Leave Transition Provision contained within the section entitled Employee Benefits is amended as follows, and there are strikeouts that indicate deletions and double underline indicating additions. I will read the final product here. Employees will continue to have available to them their current accruals of sick and vacation leave through September 30th, 2024. During this time, okay. So basically what has changed is they dropped out 1 calendar year and inserted through September 30th of 2024. Thank you, sir. Saved me as well.
For the audience is.
Yeah.
So there's only 6 more. Oh, no.
I move we adopt resolution 24-7, a resolution of Custer County, Colorado, amending the employee handbook for the purpose of extending the transition to a paid time off policy.
I'll second.
Okay, so I have a motion on the floor to approve resolution number 24-07, amending the employee handbook for the purpose of extending the transition to a paid time off policy. Further discussion?
Nope.
Not for me, sir.
Okay, public comment.
So approved, I will reach out to the employees, give them a copy of the resolution, and then we will start working with department heads and please want to meet with me to gather the information and go through the process of getting, that, Lisa has some recommendations on process, and then visit with Vernon, who's talked about a methodology to gather what we believe to be the correct answers, but yet include everyone so they all have some understanding and work through that process. Hopefully there's going to be a lot of gnashing of teeth in the process.
Thank you, sir. Okay, those in favor of approving resolution number 24-07, signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. That motion carries. Resolution number 2408, firearms in government buildings.
So I brought this forth. Many counties are doing different things within their own counties. This is largely modeled off of Fremont counties with a few caveats that are different, that are more kind of what maybe I think we want in here. And I guess if you guys disagree, then.
We had Logan counties in there too that
Yeah.
looked at.
Yeah.
And combined.
Logan counties was looked at as well. So, so Custer County Resolution number 24-08, resolution permitting the lawful possession of firearms in Custer County government buildings. Whereas pursuant to CRS 30-11-101, the Custer County Board of County Commissioners has the duty and authority to provide for public health, safety, and welfare. And whereas pursuant to CRS 30-11-101, 1C, the board is empowered to make such orders respecting county-owned real property and personal property as may be deemed by the Board of County Commissioners to be in the best interests of the county and its inhabitants. And whereas on May 7th, 2024, the Colorado General Assembly passed Senate Bill 24-131 with an effective date of July 1st, 2024, which prohibits the carrying of firearms in sensitive places. And whereas Senate Bill 24-131 creates CRS 18-12-105.3, which prohibits the carrying of firearms in government buildings. And whereas CRS 18-12-105-3-4B permits the county to enact an ordinance, regulation, or other law to permit the lawful carrying of firearms in county buildings other than the courthouse and certain locations related to elections. And whereas the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution, adopted in 1791 as part of the Bill of Rights, protects the inalienable and individual right of the people to keep and bear arms. And whereas Article 2, Section 3 of the Constitution of Colorado provides that all persons have certain inalienable rights, among which may be reckoned the right of enjoying and defending their lives and liberties, of acquiring, possessing, and protecting property, and of seeking and obtaining their safety and happiness. And whereas Article 2, Section 13 of the Constitution of Colorado provides that the right of no person to keep and bear arms in defense of his home, person, and property, or in aid of the civil power, when thereto legally summoned, shall be called in question. And whereas the members of this board took an oath to support and defend the United States Constitution, the Constitution of the State of Colorado, and the laws of the State of Colorado, insofar as they are constitutional. And whereas it is the desire of the board to affirm its support of the Second Amendment to the United States Constitution and the Colorado Constitution, protecting citizens' inalienable and individual right to keep and bear arms, now therefore be it resolved by the Custer County Board of County Commissioners that 1, otherwise lawful possession of firearms is permitted in all county-owned buildings except the courthouse and any posted location during an election cycle where ballots are issued, cast, or counted. 2, this resolution applies only to lawful possession of firearms in the specific places described herein and is not intended to affect and does not apply to any other restrictions on the possession of firearms that are imposed by Senate Bill 24-131 or other existing statutes. This resolution does not reverse the decision made by the Board of County Commissioners at its April 3rd, 2024 meeting regarding posting of notices in certain county areas and shall not apply to areas which may hereafter be designated by the Board of County Commissioners for such posting.
Thank you. Steve.
I move we adopt Custer County Resolution number 24-0, a resolution permitting the lawful possession of firearms in Custer County government building.
I would second that motion. Discussion.
Good, it's well written.
So the laws around elections have changed. The open carry part of the language went away. So now it's both open carry and concealed carry that have been done away with. So neither one are allowed now,
I think that's all.
based upon my reading and Dan's reading of that law.
Sounded like.
I would comment on just the one section because it refers to the courthouse. I don't know if we need to, I think that language is good, but I would like to make note that that is not the entire courthouse building, but there would be the courtroom or the court area. I don't know.
Yeah, again, that part was copied from Fremont County's resolution, which ironically, their courthouse doesn't have a court in it.
So they have to interpret it on the spot, just like we
Yeah,
do.
and I'm not sure how they'll interpret it in Fremont, because I think that what is commonly referred to as the courthouse in Fremont is technically the county administration building, and the courts are in the judicial center, neither of which are called, technically speaking, the courthouse. So, but I just copied that and figured if someone had an objection, Commissioner Day does, we could change that. And as I mentioned to you all, when I sent it to you, I don't have any private authorship.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's an objection, but just a clarification, I guess. I don't know if we need to include that in that or because we know what it means, but will they know what that means in 5 years?
Well, I think the other thing is, I think the statute says the courthouse.
Okay.
Because everybody has a courthouse.
The statute's not all that clear. And I don't think it's really, it wasn't really drafted with the intention of counties that have
More
still
offices
have,
than a court.
yeah, although I think that's the majority of counties.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Standalone court, that's right, it's only a big court,
Yeah.
small court only.
So basically, in your opinion, that's worded well.
I think it's worded the way the statute lets us word it. And if someone challenges it, then we can figure out what that means. Maybe read that up to the sheriff to in a way that we trust the sheriff to interpret it.
Anything else?
No.
Discussion here. Public comment. Jim.
Jim Shevlin, just want to say I appreciate
you standing up for our rights and such there. And I get real concerned about these safe spaces they want to create, because you look at history through the nation, that's where the mass shootings take place, is where they created safe spaces. So I appreciate you looking out for us citizens.
Thank you. Anyone else? Carol?
I'm gonna step in here. Carol Langer. I think that as our nation becomes more politically explosive, I would recommend that if you have a prohibition on firearms in the courtroom, is that what I'm understanding?
Yes,
Should be in the courtroom,
all courts in the state.
that you try to hold as many meetings that might be contentious in this county in the courtroom, not in Lang Hall. There's been a move to Lang Hall, and there's not the security measures there for you guys who are running a meeting, and it's just wide open. So, you know, as we have issues that are likely to be contentious, I would suggest you check with those.
Good point.
Thank you. And I'm not sure if that continues at that point, if the court is not using it and we're using it, if it still fits the definition or not.
Does if you wanted to.
Okay.
We've got the security set up there, we've got the metal detector already there. I don't know why we should just.
That's like saying we could also restrict the meeting in Lang Hall if we wanted to.
Yeah, you could, yeah.
So,
But
that's the one
the problem is
that-
you don't have the infrastructure in Lang Hall that you already have in the courthouse.
Very true. Very true.
Other than Kristen coming in.
That'll go over well. Yeah, no, let's you try that.
Okay.
Okay, Nadine?
At the last couple of contentious meetings at Lang Hall, there has been quite a visible sheriff's department people along there, so I thought perfectly safe and you guys held the good too. I appreciated that they were there.
Yes.
And the amount of people that came to those meetings could not fit in the.
Maybe there was some sort of fight outside.
There was in the parking lot, I believe. Okay, so I have a motion on the floor to approve resolution 24-08. Resolution permitting the lawful possession of firearms in Custer County government buildings. Those in favor of resolution number 24-08, signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. That motion carries.
Should we take a short recess, sir?
Why, certainly we could.
Because I've been drinking coffee all morning long since it's been right over there.
Let me sip on mine while we take a break. We will take a short recess at 9:55 here. Okay, the time is now 10:09 a.m. I will reconvene this meeting of the Custer County Board of Commissioners. And we have our people here to address the subdivision moratorium. So I would move that we go ahead and address that now, and we will do our budget resolutions after that fact.
I'll back that.
Sorry, Vernon. Okay, so I'm taking that as a second.
Yeah.
Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. So our next item we will be addressing then is the subdivision moratorium. Let me get back to that because I had the budget pulled up. Keith, would you, I know you made a special trip down here. Would you like to speak to that while we're pulling things up here?
Yeah, the problem is, I mean, yeah, I got no problem with your moratorium, but it needs to be reworded. Because basically, if you've got a subdivision moratorium, according to our definition of a subdivision, that's any time you divide a piece of land. And I mean, we have people who are, you know, trading 5 acres for 5 acres, not changing density, not doing anything, but just changing 2 parcels of land. That's actually a subdivision.
Does that affect, and I've had this conversation with Dorothy, but I'll ask you as well.
So actually, we've been doing things that have not been legal.
Not according to this.
Not according to your moratorium, they have not been legal. I mean, they have not affected density or anything like that, but they, according to your verbiage, are not legal.
Okay, and there's basically 2 here. One addresses west of 69 and one addresses east of Highway 69. Is that correct?
Right.
And
But the one that really concerns us is the one that goes east of 69.
okay, because the one west of 69 actually does not have a sunset on it. It's a permanent. And then specifically on the one east of Highway 69, that does not actually address anyone from subdividing anything. Say, I guess my ask on Dorothy was, so you had 140 acres and they wanted to cut that into 4 35-acre parcels. They would be allowed to do that. The moratorium doesn't address that anyway.
Yeah, we aren't allowed to regulate that.
Okay, so it addresses anything smaller than a 35-acre parcel is what it addresses.
It sounds like the issue is that planning and zoning is concerned, for instance, lot line adjustments, which are technically subdivisions. They would like to allow those to proceed. Whether or not the board chooses to continue the moratorium as to definitely major subdivisions, or I don't know if the subdivision regulations we have define a minor subdivision versus a major subdivision. Some places do. I don't think we do.
No, I could not find the definition of a minor subdivision.
Okay. I will tell you that, for instance, I think Fremont County and Canyon City, because I'm familiar with them, not saying we should do that, they have a distinction between a major subdivision and a minor subdivision, whereas, you know, where a minor subdivision is essentially taking a parcel and under certain conditions allowing you to split it into 2 parcels. Whereas a major subdivision is just what you think of a subdivision, 50 acre parcels, split it into 10 parcels.
And the only discussion we ever had about that was that if you could supply it from a single water source, the state allows you to have 3 houses on a well. and you could provide the water. You know, you would, but that would only lead you to 3 parcels, that's it. Total of 3 parcels.
If we were to create that distinction, that would require fairly significant rewrite of zoning regulations. Whereas if we were just to allow lot line adjustments, that's simply something we could do in terms of an additional moratorium resolution.
Okay, so let me, is that different? Listen to what he just said. My understanding would be, if it's in a zone, an area where it's already zoned down to 5 acres or whatever, that if I had a piece of ground that had 58 acres or whatever, and I wanted to cut the 35 out and define what the remainder would be, another lot, that would be, quote, a micro subdivision, if you wanted to call it that, or if you would be allowed to do that, which makes sense.
You could take the
As long
30,
as it's zoned
you could take the 35 acres off there.
Yeah.
And we don't have anything to say about it.
That's good, okay.
No, in the situation you described, that would require county approval because you're creating a lot of less than 35 acres.
Because there would be 28 acres for the other
No,
one.
yeah, you would have to have that defined, but as long as it's zoned that way, where you could allow another residence on that 12 acres. It's already zoned,
But under
water.
the current regulation, under the current moratorium, number one, that would not be allowed.
That's right, that's what I'm trying to get to.
And
I want
that would not be a lot line adjustment.
That's right, that's my point. It's not a lot line adjustment.
Sorry, I'm trying to make sure that we're all
Yeah,
on the same.
so there, you described something different than just a simple lot line adjustment.
Yes, yeah, that would be what I would consider a minor subdivision.
Yeah.
I can tell you that we get calls every day with developers, investors wanting to purchase in 5 acre zones, 100 acres or whatever they're looking at, that's up on the market, so that they can divide it into 5 acre parcels and sell them off.
Which was already zoned that way. So the
It's zoned
density
that
was
way.
agreed to back when,
But the moratorium's keeping them from doing that.
right? And that would be what would be logically something that we should allow the growth to be, because that's what it was zoned in the first.
Okay, it's zoned that way,
Yeah.
but can they provide the water?
That's right, and then water drives the rest of it. There's a lot of lands that's what I object to a lot, by people saying, well, we can go all in the Rosita Hills, you never get water in a lot of places, you'd be silly to buy it.
But don't the current subdivision regulations, if there was no moratorium, aren't they required to show that they have water for all the new lots?
100%.
Before the county would approve that, you know, dividing that 5 to
Yes.
50 acre lots
That's
to 10 5 acre subdivision, 5 acre lots.
They're required to provide, to show that they have 100%, for 100% build out, that they can provide the water.
Okay, so that's something that would require, anyway. So I think what I'm looking for from the board is direction is to A, do you want the moratorium to continue? And B, if you do you want to adjust that to allow for things like lot line adjustments or anything else? If you don't want the moratorium to continue, then the board doesn't have to do a darn thing, because on July 1st it'll expire. If you do want it to continue, then what we'll have to do is I'll have to draft a resolution for that, under whatever terms you decide that you're interested in doing today, and then we'll have to publish notice of a public hearing at some point in mid to late July, and have that adopted by the board in July. And it would be retroactive to July 1st.
So I'm the guy here that was on this, and the discussions we had at this time. And what our intent was to not allow planned unit development, we cut it up and made a lot of houses in the same area that, you know, we could approve. And what that was, we recognized that we had areas that had done that already, and these planned unit developments were running out of water. They were pumping only well they had that was servicing 10 houses, and realizing that they're going to be gone. And so that was the big reason. And so what I'm seeing here, though, if it's already been zoned, And the water's there on they had 5 acre pieces here and 10 acres here, and then you ended up owning 140 acres around it. You could take that as long as the water was on there, and you could put a house on the 10 acre piece, you know, with 5 acre piece for their families or whatever they want to do.
But I don't know I don't know that you can say that the water is there.
You don't know until that's right, until you.
I mean, they've got to, in order to do that, they're gonna have to either,
Who do they go to prove it to? Keith? How would you see that work?
well,
They would have to,
gonna have to go through the state. And number one, if they're gonna have central water, they're gonna have to have a commercial well. They're gonna have to augment that commercial well.
Right.
So where's their water coming from?
Or, okay, let's take the other case. If there's a place that could have 2 wells, I mean, how do you know? It was zoned already as a 5 acre possible size you could have by it.
Right.
And the piece around it can have a residence. It's 35 acres, you can drill 1 well. And if it's zoned for the 5 acre piece, it's allowed to have its own well as well. As long as the water, you have to
But that
go
5
through
acre piece is not allowed to have its own well unless it's augmented.
That's right, that's my point. And as long as it's in a place that can be augmented, then what's the county's responsibility?
I mean,
They would have to go through the water board, right, the upper arc.
yeah, but,
Right.
but a lot of the ground east of Highway 69 is not within the blue line
That's right, so you could,
of the upper arc.
right.
So
In which case they
don't-
wouldn't be able to do it.
They couldn't do it unless they can buy surface water.
And that's something that
Yeah.
Dorothy ought to be able to see, and so what I'm trying to do is not have everything come to the board here, as long as there's a way that it legally can be handled by Dorothy
Well, it's-
and
but
the upper arc.
she's not gonna be able to determine the water.
Right. Gotta be up to the upper
The state-
Arkansas.
they would have to go through the state.
Right.
The state is gonna have to determine.
Okay.
But they still have to show that. Point is, before we would approve a subdivision, they'd have to show that they've done that with the state.
I don't think,
Right.
you don't have to approve it though.
Yes, you do.
No, I get that part, but does the Custer County Board have to approve?
No, just
I don't think so.
I think, I'd have to go back and look at the regulations. I'm not sure if lot line adjustments have to be approved by the Board of County Commissioners or just planning.
Planning and zoning can approve a lot.
I can do some of that, and that's something that I'm working on, trying to get some more definition between
Yeah.
the planning commission, and I'd also, I'm gonna schedule a workshop with Kit.
Because we've
Because
seen,
you're absolutely right, you cannot drill a well if it's not within a place you can augment the water.
Right.
It doesn't exist, and that's up to the landowner to go through the process of doing that. And all Dorothy has to worry about is it's been zoned down to 5 acres, fine, you sign off on it. If he wanted to go different than that, that would require a board action, because it's a different special permit. And and this says we're not gonna go do any PUDs, period. We wanna keep it in
West of 60.
west of 60.
so let me ask, part of it's the same questions that have just been getting asked, but I'm gonna rephrase those and for my own clarification. If we were to allow this to sunset, that would allow, say, in the 5 acre zone, for people to be able to subdivide after they have went to the state and demonstrated that they have the ability to augment the water for a well and received a permit from the state for said well before they came to planning and zoning to get that approved. Is that what I'm hearing?
I mean, they would have to go, if they're gonna do more than one lot, I would say that they're gonna have to come to the planning commission and go through the whole subdivision regulation process, which is not simple. Because they're gonna have to prove, they're gonna have to show their roads, they're gonna have to show their drainage, they're gonna have to show, that they've got adequate water to supply all these lots.
That's a subdivision taking 35 and cutting it into smaller.
Yeah,
That's what we want to avoid.
Well, the way the subdivision regulations are written now, the way I'm reading them, is there's a role for the planning commission, but there's also a role for the planning commissioners for the preliminary phase and the final approval phase. And I don't know, but again, without a substantial rewrite of the subdivision regulations, I don't know that you can prevent that from coming to the board.
No, I agree with that.
Okay.
You can't. I just don't want to have to get the commissioners into a position where if you have a 57-acre lot and you want to pull a 35 and just survey it out, they have to pay for the survey, and then you're left with 12 acres on the side or whatever it is. That doesn't need to come to us. That's something Dorothy can look at, and then.
That does come, yeah.
Well, it does?
Yeah.
Well, if it does,
So
that's
right now,
fine.
she even comes to us with a vacate and replot.
Well, that's true.
But you just have to sign it.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, at the end,
that's
presumably
okay.
most of the footwork will have been done before it gets here. You'll have a recommendation from the planning,
That's
the
true.
planning commission, and, if everybody's on the same page and everybody's in agreement, then it is just okay, sounds good to us. If they say we recommend that you don't approve this, and you've got the
Sure.
landowner disagreeing, then that becomes more of a.
Well, that makes sense. So let's take that 57-acre deal then. So it's in an area where the 35 can exist, one well, and it's also in an area where the 12 acres could exist with one well. And then once we go through it, they'd have to survey it, and then the water would have to be augmented, maybe or not, it depends on what it is. Then you'd come to us and say, we used to call it a micro subdivision or something, maybe that's what somebody's slang was, but it's just taking 2 lots out of the one. It's not a subdivision where you're taking the 35 and subdividing it into 10 acre little ranchettes or something. That's what we were trying to avoid.
Well, I know that's what you were trying to avoid. That's not what.
So let's,
that's not what the end result was.
right, that's right. So
So-
maybe you want, does it mean you're gonna come back to us with a recommendation of a change
Well,
or what?
again, what I'm hearing from you, Commissioner Kent, is maybe we let the moratorium lapse and proceed with what we have. We already have regulations in place. It's just that we can't use those regulations because there's a moratorium on subdivisions.
Would that be your recommendation? Is that true?
Actually, because I don't think that there's adequate augmentation possibilities for them to even do a 5-acre, a subdivision with 5-acre lots.
Right, you can't. Well, that's something we would, that'd be an easy
So
one.
that would prevent that from happening in the first place then, though,
Right,
correct?
because they can't get the water.
So whether we had a moratorium or not,
Doesn't matter.
that wouldn't be able to happen if they couldn't show the water. So the moratorium actually does not affect that.
No,
Okay.
the moratorium only, in my mind, it told people we didn't want subdivisions. Okay, that was one thing. But in reality, through the office, it stopped us from people, like, the major thing that I see is with people trading 5 acres for 5 acres. But in the process, you created a 5-acre lot, which you were not allowed to do. But you only traded it to your neighbor, and he included it in his line because he took that 5-acre lot, erased the lot lines and included it back in his property.
Yeah.
And we shouldn't have been doing that, but we did.
So
Well,
that
that's-
means we just let it expire, is that what you're saying?
Well, and I'm not making recommendations, but it sounds like.
Well,
Yeah.
that's how you're interpreting it.
I'm asking the question that you're asking as well, Commissioner Canada.
So, and I've had comments as well. I mean, we've been looking at trying to figure out housing and stuff as well. So if you had somebody with a 10 or a 20 acre lot and they wanted to cut part of that off to bring in a family member or something like that, we're precluding them from doing that now, whereas under this, if they could prove up the water, they could do that.
That's exactly
And
right.
I think, in my mind, due to what we've been looking at and trying to do, that would be a plus at this point.
That's right.
Right. I think it would too. If they can provide that water off their existing well,
Sure.
which is what they're gonna get.
Mhm.
Or if it's a water that can be augmented, like you suggested, and have,
Right.
that'd be fine.
Right.
So that means we let it expire.
I would say, that's what I would say.
Making my job a lot easier and their job a lot harder.
I mean,
You haven't weighed in on this yet, Commissioner Epp?
No, I've just been listening. It sounds like we've got zoning rules that already are going to, if the first rule is you have to go to the state and you have to get your water situation planned out, well, then we're already hampering it down. There's a process to go through. Let's let the process work like it needs to. Plus, it'll keep us in the right with if somebody does want to break off and swap 5 acres or whatever it is, then we're at least within the rules that we have. But it also then allows us, for those people who are moving in or who are moving an older parent in, to take care of them. It's a whole lot more cost effective for them to bring that person in and build an additional dwelling unit or add on to their place or whatever they want to do. But sounds like we have some options then that would be more open to us, so.
And we can always disapprove somebody taking a 35 and cutting it up.
right, I mean, they're gonna have to go through the subdivision regulations.
Right.
Right, and to be clear, it's not just water that a subdivider has to show, they also have to show
Right.
sewage treatment, storm drainage, roads, easements, that they have the rights of way provided for, fire protection plan, that there's utilities.
Right.
You know,
And-
wildlife impacts, those kinds of things.
And what we were worried about then, we're an ag, right, ranch is what we are, period. And so we were wanting to protect that, to keep that ability, because if we kept letting things get smaller and smaller and smaller, pretty soon you've got nothing. But people, no ag business.
So what's changed from 5 years ago to now? Have we gotten stricter regulations with our zoning, or?
It was just this prohibiting what we just discussed. There was an unintended consequence that nobody thought of. And then they went ahead and were doing it anyway. We could be doing things illegally because
Well,
they didn't consider.
we've been basically say, if I have 5 acres and this person has 5 acres, I want to give them a little portion and this
Right.
portion to make it buildable and things
Right,
like
or
that.
if I had 57 acres and I wanted to take a little bit out so that I could have my son.
We have not been allowed.
We have not been allowing it.
But what she's talking about is a lot line adjustment where you have,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, I
you
got
just
that.
want to make it, you know,
Yeah,
a lot
because it is.
easier for whatever the two neighboring property.
Your
We
neighbor
have
built
not
his
been letting
garage
people split their smaller lots up.
across the line on your lot, so now you both have to trade some ground, so he
Right.
owns the ground he's,
Right.
Which
his
technically
garage
there's a
is on.
moratorium on, but it sounds like
Right.
zoning has been.
And it would allow you to consider what I just said, as opposed to saying you can't do it.
But Commissioner Rapp, no, we have subdivision regulations from 2011 that haven't been addressed, as far as I know, recently. And I mean, technically, that's one of the reasons why we do a moratorium, is to kind of give us some breathing room to examine, okay, how do we address rampant growth or whatever that's going on? And I'm not sure that we've used the last 5 years to do that, but.
So this could open up then a lot of people that have an odd number of acres and going, oh, now this 5 acres is 7 acres, whatever it ends up being.
It could definitely do
I mean, you got a family that owns 80 acres and they wanna, you know, they don't
Split it
most of
in
that, but they also wanna pull some money off of that.
Yeah.
Maybe they can subdivide 15 acres off of that,
Which is okay,
sell off that 15 to, so they can keep the remaining.
as long as the zoning is not broken, that would be.
Right, as long
That
as
would
they
be okay.
didn't, as long as they stayed within
Within
their,
the zoning regulations.
whether it was 5, or 6,
And can show the water for the new
Sure.
parcel.
and they're gonna have to show the water.
Yeah.
And that's the limiting factor.
Always been, and that's been a good thing.
Do we need to take time out, extend this for a year and go through the subdivision regulations? Do we need to make that a priority?
I don't think we need to, I think we can let it expire personally.
And yeah, we could update the subdivision regulations,
Always.
but I don't know if there'd be that many big changes in them. I mean, I was on the board already when we did those subdivision regulations.
Yeah, we did a lot of
That
work.
was a 2-year project.
Yeah, it was. So let's look at the mechanics here. We don't have to do anything right now.
Right.
That would be just a non-thing.
You don't, in fact, I would encourage you not to make a motion to not do anything.
That's a negative motion, correct? Yeah.
Yeah, then we,
So,
yeah, that's a
Carol,
good discussion.
I saw you raise your hand. Normally, I don't take public comment if we don't have a motion on the floor, but you are a member of the planning commission, so I will allow you to put your 2 cents in.
I would just like to affirm what you're talking about doing and give you an example of one of our neighbors that has been impacted by this. He said to me the other day, so are they still not gonna let me sell my land?
Yeah.
He's got 70 acres. It's got a house on one end, and the other end used to have a house. So he's got a well. He's got 2 wells,
Mhm.
and he
That's right.
can't,
That's right.
you know, he wants to split off 5, 10, 15 acres. And this moratorium says he can't do that.
That's right. I have,
That's way
I
too
have the
much
same thing.
regulation,
That's
you know.
exactly the good example, Carol.
Well, thank you for that. So,
Let it expire.
Are you allowing comments?
I allowed her because she's a member of the planning commission that, if we had a motion on the floor, I would allow you, but I'm listening and I'm not hearing a motion at this time. Is that correct? So probably not, Nadine, so.
When does it
Okay,
expire? 30th of August, when?
July 1st.
July 1st, okay, there it is.
this July 1st.
2 weeks from now.
So be it.
I would like to thank you for making the trip over the mountain, coming down to the kingdom, and
I tried to.
Thanks for seeing that.
I tried to stay away,
so once in a while you got to get out, right?
and I just thought that, you know, I had an idea of what you guys really wanted to happen.
So
That's not what your resolution said.
That's an unintended
So-
consequence.
Well, basically, you did have unintended consequences, and there were some that we were actually breaking your law.
breaking our rules to make things work for people. But yeah, thank you for coming down, because your guys' input is vital, because you deal with it day in and day out. And we're trusting you guys to guide us along in what we're doing here, so thank you.
I'll guide you along and say, watch your table, because it's gonna fall down. It's better.
There, I just locked it.
All right.
Good eye. Okay, next item then, now, Vernon, if you'd like to come on up, and we will address resolutions 2409 through 24-15 budget resolutions.
All right.
Let me get back to 9. Okay, I think you and Lucas have been working on these, trying to get money put where it needs to be, correct?
Yes, indeed.
Hot seven's up, is that right?
You said that about sums it up.
Oh, okay. I
Or
just said,
is 2407?
oh, it's 2409.
Oh, you're on 9 now?
Yes, sir.
7 was 30, 40 minutes ago.
Oh, that's right. I was looking at these instead of what was
Sorry,
on
Bill.
on the
Kicking you
mass
under the table.
mailing that you did. Okay.
Sorry, I would have brought handouts, but I am killing enough trees as it is. So resolution 2409 basically deals with some adjustments to the Custer County Lodging and Tourism Fund. Some budget requests from last year didn't get into the budget, and excuse me, didn't get into the approved budget. They have a fund balance to cover this. They have the revenues to cover this. And so this resolution outlines basically beefing up their budget to cover certain expenses that they're going to be incurring in 2024 for promoting Custer County and tourism. So did you want me to, do I read these out, or do you guys?
How about, I would,
Okay.
you can do a brief explanation like that, would be perfect, and then
Yeah, we don't need.
I would move that we approve resolution number 24-09, a resolution for supplemental budget and appropriation, and I will just add for the tourism budget.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor to approve resolution number 24-09, resolution for supplemental budget and appropriation for tourism as described adequately here by Vernon. Any discussion?
No, the appropriation is 12.5 from the available fund balance. I'll add to
Be
that.
in there, yes.
$12,500.
Yes, sir.
Any further discussion? Public comment? Joy?
Yeah, I just had a question. If Vernon could go over that one more time, what exactly is it being added to the budget? There's being money added to the budget, or what?
So they have money in their fund already. It was not appropriated for them to be able to spend it when we put the budget together.
It's moving it from the cash fund balance to the budget. And some lines got increased internally and some were reduced down to 0. So it's just the moving of money within the funds and then within the tourism budget fund itself. And then taking from their cash balance line 12.5 and adding it to their budget.
Okay, so it's not like there's additional services or something that they're requesting and that's what the money's for. It's stuff that they'd already planned on doing.
Yes, or have been added in the last few months through their meetings of things that they want to do.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. Deb?
I just wanted to clarify if the $20,000 CTO grant is included in this budget now?
No, this budget is just covering the appropriations from the fund balance. We'll have to do another one for the $20,000 CTO grant.
Okay, and I followed up with them and it should be sent to Virginia within the next 3 to 4 weeks.
Okay.
Well, we can do this again as soon as that comes in.
Okay, so I don't see what you're looking at, Vernon, but I assume it's the document that we went over together when I met with you.
Yes, ma'am. That's where those numbers came from.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, have a motion on the floor to approve resolution, or to adopt, I guess,
Yes.
resolution number 24-09, a resolution for supplemental budget and appropriation for the tourism, and the appropriation is for $12,500. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. That motion carries. Moving to 24 dash. Went to 11 there. Do we have a 10?
Yeah,
We do.
it's on the other side. I don't know.
Okay, go ahead,
Put 'em in
sir.
order, but sometimes the
Sometimes they
computer
come
does
up.
what it wants.
Yes, that's
True.
I got it right
Turn them
there.
out.
So this 24-10 resolution deals with the landfill expansion fund, whereas the landfill expansion fund established to fund costs incurred by the landfill expansion. We're going to move $55,000 from that landfill expansion fund into the capital improvement fund to cover, for the purpose of purchasing the equipment used in landfill expansion. That's going to cover the down payment for the new compactor. It was approved last week.
Okay,
I move we adopt 2410 budget resolution, supplemental budget and appropriation for money associated with the Custer County landfill fund expansion. Now at $55,000.
I would second that motion. So I have a motion on the floor to adopt resolution number 2410. Resolution for supplemental budget and appropriation for the landfill in the sum of $55,000. Discussion. Public comment. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. Moving back to 2411. So,
Okay, this one deals with a couple of items regarding the sheriff's office. First off, there will be a fund transfer of $67,000 from the general fund balance to cover specific needs that the sheriff's office basically didn't request in the original budget request at the beginning of the year, or excuse me, at the end of last year. That includes about $35,000 for patrol salaries and $32,000 for the sheriff's office body cameras, which is an unfunded mandate from the state. It also, the rest of the budget resolution also basically moves money from funds that were over, that had funds that they didn't need, for instance, detention salary, patrol overtime, detention overtime, moving those into patrol salary, as well as patrol benefits and patrol insurance. So that's what this one is about. Basically beefing the patrol line up from $482,000 to the necessary $670,000 necessary to maintain operations in that area.
and the appropriated amount coming from the general fund would be $67,000.
Yep.
I have a motion. I would move that we adopt resolution 24-11, resolution for supplemental budget and appropriation as described for the sheriff's office.
Oh, second that.
Discussion. Public comment. Those in favor of adopting resolution 24-11 as described here signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. 12.
24-12. Whereas Custer County Insurance Fund 56 has an unused fund balance of 5,476.12. We're going to be transferring that money into the general fund to cover professional services for the purpose of paying for our accounting services. This fund was set up years ago and became unused, and that money has been sitting there for some time, and the auditors pointed that out to us. And this is going to be used to basically pay for our accountant at this time.
Well, it's 12.
Yes, sir.
So I move that we adopt resolution number 2412, resolution for supplemental budget and appropriation for resolution to defray the expenses in the amount of $5,476.12.
Second. Discussion. Public comment.
So I just have a question, Vernon.
Yes, ma'am.
And this kind of goes back to what we were discussing yesterday. We did this in a fund transfer, kind of a fund transfer form. So should we not have done it that way and just went about it this way, or?
So the guidance I'm seeing is that it should be done this way because it's it moves between fund balances rather than within a specific fund. So that's the guidance I'm receiving today, and that we're with the finance law at this time.
I'm just gonna start, when somebody asks for a fund transfer, I'm just gonna start asking you.
Well, and I welcome that conversation.
I think we both will.
Okay.
Yeah, we want to get to we move money only one way and in a consistent way, and then these all have to be reported to DOLA along with our budget, so.
Yes, sir. All of these will be filed as budget amendments with DOLA.
Well, and we had the discussion yesterday, it's been hard the last few years because we moved certain money through fund transfer. And we've moved certain money through budget resolution in the past.
Right.
And I had a discussion with Sam about that, what's the difference? And we thought we had it clear, but nothing's ever
So
clear.
the transfer within a
No.
department is a transfer, and then between departments would be resolutions that have small.
Well, that's kind of how I always thought about it, but like the insurance fund, is it going from from a fund within general to within general, or?
No, ma'am.
totally-
It is a
and
completely
that's the
separate fund. Yep.
difference.
Yes.
The keyword is fund.
Yes.
That's
And
that's the
the
right
difference.
interpretation.
Right.
If something has the word fund in it, then you should be doing a resolution. You do one from one fund to another fund.
Understood.
That's correct.
If it's, so each, many, it's not each, many, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, because you know more than me. In many funds may have a number of line items that you might transfer internally. You don't need to do a resolution to do those kind of transfers internally. But it's just when you're going from one fund to another, let's say general fund to sheriff's fund, or basically insurance fund to the general fund. That's when you have to do this, because those are things that are top line budget items that you adopt in December.
Right.
That you're changing, like, once you transfer that money.
And the reason we've added the fund transfers, like in the sheriff's, because we transferred it within the fund. The reason we added it to it is so that, one, it's transparent. Two, we remember what happened. Why did we do this? What was the reasonings behind it? What's going on? So we could always go back. So we have some track history that we don't have now. It's hard to tell. It's hard to know what's going on. So this way we capture it all, and it's at least transparent. Wouldn't have to do it, but
Part of that, I'm sure.
yeah. But it at least, it's written down now, and we can go through it, so.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
we
we
haven't
gotta-
called a vote on that yet.
Yeah.
Next.
So I have a motion on the floor to adopt resolution number 24-12. Resolution for supplemental budget and appropriation in the sum of $5,476.12. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. That motion carries. 13.
So moving on to 13, and this actually falls under part of this discussion. This could have been done as what we talked about, that transfer, but we wanted to make certain it's transparent. We are making certain that this is, all of the purposes are outlined. This basically moves money from a specific department line within one fund. In the 10 fund, we're moving the monies from Public Information Office, which is being funded by the, which is being manned by the BOCC admin. So these funds don't need to be used there. We're moving those funds from the Public Information Office into professional services for the purpose of paying for accounting services to a tune of $24,114 from the PIO budget into professional services to pay for accounting.
Okay, I move we adopt resolution 2413, resolution for supplemental budget and appropriation or defraying the costs budgeted for Custer County PIO fund to the general fund, right?
Well, they're all in the general.
They're on the general fund. Anyway, for the sum of $24,114.
Motion, do I have a second? Second. You're being quiet over here. Discussion.
Didn't want to be incestuous.
Since he was involved in making those up, I guess. I'll give you that. Any further discussion on 2413? Public comment. Those in favor of adopting resolution 24-13, the appropriation amount of $24,114, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Oh, aye, sorry. Aye for.
Aye for aye?
Sorry.
Okay, that motion carries unanimously.
Sorry, too many things on my mind.
So
14.
we are almost there. Moving on to resolution 24-14. Whereas the Custer County Pest and Weed Department has obtained grant funding to the amount of $15,000, we will recognize the receipt of that $15,000 within the 10 fund to a specific line item, pest and weed grant, and then move proper appropriations into grant operations, contract labor, advertising, and travel, as well as moving a small amount of money, $5,000 from from a generic pest and weed expense line into specifically contract labor for the pest and weed department. So that's what 2414 is.
Do I have a motion?
I'll move that we adopt 2414. And this is to move $15,000 and $5,000. Is this from a good?
So it's to recognize the receipt. We've received a grant, and we need to resolve.
Okay, all right,
we have to recognize the money.
All right, so we're recognizing the appropriation.
Yes, sir. We're recognizing the receipt, yes, of that money. And you had already budgeted $15,000 into a generic pest and weed expense line. We are specifically allocating that into contract labor for the purpose of cost share.
Okay. So you did make a motion?
Yeah, I made the motion that we acknowledge the.
Okay. I will second.
Oh, sorry, I spoke out of turn.
No, that's all right. You were asked a direct question. Discussion, I would ask, that does not where you have moved these monies does not affect the terms of that grant, whereas there was 14, it was amended to read that 14,000 went to cost share and / contract labor for that, and then 1,000 for education purposes on that grant. So I just wanted to make sure we did not violate those.
So putting the money into these different accounts, I took those allocations into account, and this allows us to more easily track exactly how that money is spent.
Okay,
So
that's good. And I just wanted to make sure that we didn't violate anything there. So
understood.
I'm seeing your different line items, but sometimes that is clear as mud. So.
Well, putting $14,000 into something that has several different uses kind of muddies the waters.
Yeah.
So by creating these different creating these different line items, we can accurately track where money's going that way. It's going to be the same amount bottom line, but it's going to be distributed into specific locations.
We can always change and adjust as we go along.
Okay, and that's good. So, yeah, that's basically the only restriction on those monies. So, and we did get that modified to be able to include the contract labor on that, because that was not initially in the verbiage on that grant.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Public comment? Those in favor of adopting 24-14 signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. That motion carries. The one we're looking for.
Okay. So the final, it is the one we're looking for because it's the last one. 24-15. Custer County Commissioners have approved expenditures in the Capital Improvement Fund. We're going to, appropriate $99,938.96 to cover expenses. That's from the fund balance itself, to cover expenses for the planning and zoning assessor's vehicle that we purchased, as well as to cover the expenses approved for the repairs and maintenance of the TV broadcasting facilities. So that's going to basically come from the fund balance and be allocated into those three lines: planning and zoning, capital improvement, the assessor capital improvement, and the commissioner capital improvement lines.
What was that total?
$99,938.96.
Okay, I move we approve resolution, or adopt resolution 24-15 in the amount of $99,938.96 for distribution to the three funds mentioned: the planning and zoning, TV tower,
The assessor's office.
the assessor's office.
Second. Discussion. Public comment. Those in favor of adopting resolution number 24-15 in the sum of $99,936.96 signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. That motion carries. Thank you.
That's all I have for today. We can meet again next week.
I appreciate you coming forward and backwards and forwards. And
Appreciate your help, Aaron. Appreciate it.
any additional items of business?
So maybe I'm mistaken. I thought we were gonna have landfill compactor decision made after we sign that resolution to move the money. And I hate to add an additional item at the end, but
Is that just oversight?
I mean, I may have forgotten, I don't know, or did we decide it last week and I don't know,
Can I refresh your memory?
sure, I'd love to.
So, you wanted to move the money first
Correct,
before you signed
the statement on
the
the
deal
bank,
with UBB.
yeah,
And yesterday, after Vernon and I were going over the resolutions, I thought, oh, we need to have that on the agenda. Then about 10 minutes later, Brian came in with the thing from UBB, a letter of interest. And that's what he remembered, is that it just, he thought you had approved it and it needed to just be signed. So that's why I sent it to you.
Okay.
So you guys can decide if you just want to, if you want to sign that or how you want to deal with that. Because I told him that you won't meet again until the 3rd.
right.
Let me go back to our, that was on the 19th when we did that, correct?
Mhm.
Yes.
Well, no, not the 19th, the 12th.
Yeah.
12th.
My bad, the 12th. Clicked on the wrong one, so let me see what we have in here, and it may or may not address it.
Because I believe our decision was to wait until we moved the money. And I neglected to make sure it was on this agenda.
I'm not seeing it here either on the 12th. The bridge, medical station.
So the issue is we need to make a decision or, either we're gonna call a special meeting to decide that, or we wait till the 3rd, which is 2 weeks out from now.
For him to be able to start that process at the bank.
Correct.
So what
We,
do you recommend? And we can, can we wait that long? If you want to do it now.
Well, my issue is that I've been against adding things to the agenda during new business. And I'd rather not, but pushing something out 2 weeks on a 6-month lead item, I don't like to do either.
makes that a 7th month.
Um,
That makes it a 7-month lead instead of a 6-month.
Yeah, but I mean, we can move it to the 3rd and it is what it is and we.
Well, we had, in the last meeting, we had an open meeting, recognized what's necessary. Like we're making something new.
No, it's true. We have been talking about it, so I don't know.
Probably, I think you could argue it's day-to-day operations of the county.
It is.
In which case there isn't a public notice requirement.
Yeah, we already.
It's not a practice I'd like to get into, but.
No,
Commissioner Kent is right. We've already had this discussion already.
And actually, we've discussed at many meetings.
And that we were
this
gonna
whole
move
year.
the money into it
Yeah.
before we did it. So we
Right.
moved it, we're doing what we said we were gonna do.
Okay.
That was a
Alright.
specific comment that was made.
Okay.
And now the money is moved.
Well, then I make a motion that we approve.
Or do we need a motion?
We're entering into a lease. I think the decision we made
Yeah.
last week or a couple weeks ago was that we need that.
Yeah.
A paper trail that we're.
Yeah,
bringing to the commission.
that's good.
Yeah, so I make
That's
a
clear to me.
motion that we move into the purchase of the 2024 TANA H260 Eco Landfill Compactor.
With the amount of,
Yeah, the first amount will be $80,000. Then it'll be
Okay, I'll second.
payments.
Okay, so I have a motion on the floor to move forward with the purchase of the, let me see that again. Of the 2024 TANA H260 Eco Landfill Compactor. And the lease amount is 600,000 with the down payment, which is the amount being given at this time for $80,000. Discussion. Brian, I'll let you chime in here.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that, I took that letter of interest last meeting, and I thought you were going to sign it after the budget resolution was approved, so I'm glad that it's happening. Because the longer we wait, the longer it's going to take, obviously. So, but I was outside when you guys approved it. I wanted to clarify that the money is coming out of the landfill expansion fund, and it's going into the landfill capital outlay line item. That's correct, right?
That's correct. So there'll be 80,000 in there. Yep, that's correct.
Okay, perfect. Nope, that's all I got.
All right, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Any public comment? See none. Those in favor of moving ahead with the purchase of the 2024 TANA compactor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. That motion carries. Any other additional items of business?
No more from me.
I'm putting a little asterisk by your name now.
We'll let it happen.
I'll try not.
You have to wait your turn now for the couple of rounds.
I'll wait till next year.
All right. Public comment. 80. Joy has her hand up. Joy.
Did I just get preferential treatment from Nadine?
You did.
You did, so I think she said you owe her lunch now or something like that.
Oh, great. I just had a question when the moratorium issue was brought up about subdivision. It seemed like it was being brought up as a question as to whether or not to let it sunset. And so if that is the case, wouldn't you need to make a motion that you're going to let it sunset?
That was part of our discussion, ma'am, and no, by taking no action, we are allowing that to sunset because the wording in that moratorium was that it would sunset basically at the end of this month. So July 1st, it would have sunsetted.
I understand that if you don't do anything, it's gonna sunset. But I guess my point was it was brought up. The question was raised as to whether or not to let it sunset. That was the question when the new business was brought up. And so you've made a decision to not let it, or to let it sunset. Doesn't that also require a vote?
Can't have a vote to do nothing.
That would be a negative motion, I believe is how that's worded, and that's basically not a proper motion.
Okay.
Well, basically a non-action accomplishes the same thing, but is acceptable, whereas the negative motion is not really that acceptable.
Okay. So as a point of clarification on this moratorium that's going to sunset, does that mean that we're taking the position now that people can come in and do PUDs, apply for PUDs and try to subdivide into 5-acre lots? I mean, are we saying now we're open to growth?
That would be, per our discussion today, that would be, they can move forward with that process, but there's a lot of hoops that they have to jump through. And as our discussion this morning stated, a lot of that would revolve around water. And that would have to be in place before it even reached the county level.
Well, I know that those water issues were there even before the moratorium were in place. So, but yet there was still a need to make a moratorium. So your decision not to have a moratorium at this point seems to be it seems to be suggesting that now you're open to growth.
Well.
Yes,
yeah,
go ahead and Bill,
Yeah,
go ahead.
yeah, you're right, it does, but you have to think about it, it was a subdivision, the intent was not to do PUDs. And so what we could do later, if we want to continue this, is just come up with another item to say we're gonna just ban PUDs, put a moratorium on that specifically. Subdivision, the planning's already been taken care of, we're not changing anything that had already been there, so we've always been open for subdivisions, as long as they conform with the plan, the resolutions that we currently have on, that are active today.
Then Bill, what was the point of the moratorium to begin with?
PUDs, planned unit developments, where that we were saying we don't even want to hear about them. Why waste our time? We're going to allow things to be subdivided per the regulations today. So and in effect, it doesn't matter because they're going to try to put a PUD in. I'm assuming we would all like mine, we probably would not approve it.
We wouldn't prejudge that application until we see the application in front of us, to be clear.
That's right. That's true, but I'm pointing out that we don't need to say we're not.
Nice save. Nice save.
Make that pretty clear.
Yeah, because otherwise we're making a resolution.
That's right.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
So we're just going back to the way it is.
That would be a personal opinion.
That's right. That's what I said. I assume.
Okay.
Well, the one thing I did appreciate about the moratorium was it made it very clear of your position. And now for anybody who does want to try to do something in the county, bring in housing or something like that, which I know a lot of people that would like to see better housing in the county, it makes it a lot muddier for us to even consider trying to invest in the area.
I'll thank you for that.
Okay.
Just in time too. Do you still want to speak?
Yes.
Go ahead.
This is also about the moratorium. So why not have a public workshop and have the moratoriums discussed and maybe change a few things in the moratorium? Because, there are people, like Larry said, they've got 2 houses or 2 wells probably on property, but they're not allowed to do it. So sunsetting it would allow them to do that. So why can't we do a moratorium on, or change the wording, or maybe make a new one that would disallow some of the PUDs that seem to be.
It's not that that's not a possibility. We could do that if we deem that necessary. Now, I guess we could see how things progress and if we need to reenact something on that. So it's not off the table arbitrarily.
Okay. So it does sunset, but our attorney said that you could have a workshop and make it retroactive to July 1st. So.
Yeah. Basically, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Dan, that statement was mainly in regards to if we would like to extend or modify the moratorium, and in which case we would need to hold a public hearing and then make it retroactive to July 1st, which is the sunset date of this one. If we let it sunset and then we chose to put something in place after the fact, that wouldn't necessarily go back to the July 1st date. It would be whenever we got done with our hearings and that.
So to protect, whatever might be submitted on July 2nd, before you say, oh, we have to have a moratorium again, it couldn't be retroactive, right? So somebody could sneak in and do something.
Well, I think our decision was to allow the moratorium to sunset. By taking no action, that would be what our decision was. So at this point, on July 2, someone could come in and make that application. Thank you. Anyone else? That being the case, I will adjourn this BOCC meeting at 11:19.